Hi guys, Sullivan here in Philadelphia. So I'm back in the greenhouse after 2 very busy weeks with my wedding that I completed for a client this past weekend. And the garden looks incredible. We had some really beautiful weather. I had a bunch of freelance staff here and we were able to really enjoy the garden. But unfortunately, everything that was blooming was not colors that were in the bride's preferred color palette. So I couldn't cut as much from the garden as I wanted to for the wedding, but there's so much that looks amazing. And I just got some new planters from the wedding that I bought for the wedding, and I decided I would like to keep them. Usually I sell things that I don't need for the next one. But I thought we could make maybe a larger scale design just so you guys could see how I work in a bigger urn. I really tried, because one of the main questions I get when I cut from my shrubs is how do I cut without doing a lot of damage or making it look like I've been cutting. And so I tried to have the drone follow me for some cutting. We'll see how that footage turned out. I only crashed the drone once. Can you blame me for flying the drone into a tree when it was just supposed to be following me and it didn't use its little sensors to determine that there was a tree behind it? One thing I did cut is a ton of beautiful garden roses, and they are thorny. So before I pick a vase and start designing, I am going to get gloves and try to clean off some of those thorns, because I really stabbed myself yesterday when I was cutting them. All right, I will be back in a minute with some processed flowers. I'm going to use this urn, and I'm putting it on cardboard because I don't want to scratch my counter. It's some kind of distressed aluminum, and it is not watertight. For the wedding, we used a shallow bucket, but because not all of my flowers are particularly tall, I'm going to use this. Kind of missed the vase there. I probably could use an even bigger urn, but the thing that I'm seeing that are the shortest flowers are some of the peonies. So you can kind of only go as tall as you have stem length if you're not using foam, and I typically do not use foam when I'm designing things for myself. You can buy all kinds of fancy gloves for handling roses, leather gloves. These are winter time gloves. They have like a fleece lining and a rubber grip. They're sufficient for everything but the nastiest of roses. This is actually not a thorny piece, so I left it in there. I think one of the misconceptions about designing a large-scale piece is that you don't have to think as much about the composition, but to be honest, you have to be even more strategic about what you're using and where. It's fairly typical after a wedding. I can't find any of my sharp tools. If you like to arrange flowers for yourself, I highly recommend some type of willow. You can cut and cut and cut from them and you'll never know. some short pieces in the front and taller pieces in the back. I have this very stretched out smoke tree that one of the freelancers that worked with me last week called the Dr. Seuss tree. I try not to cut from them until they flower, but these were gonna break because they were blowing around in the wind. And they really do work particularly well as a flower frog. So this rose needs some support, and this whole piece was laying flat on the ground, so I decided to cut it. It's really more for foliage than the flowers. So they do look really nice. And then I think I got some footage of cutting from the 9 bark. I typically look for pieces that are interfering with the growth of, mine seems to have some kind of powdery mildew. I'll have to investigate that, see what that is. But this was flopped forward. It had some dead growth in it. It's still flowering, it's very nice, but it was smothering something in front of it. So I try only to cut branches that look like they need to be cut. The curtains. Typically, I would work on this at a lower height than counter height. I would probably drop it down. This, what's the counter? 36 inches. I would try to work on it at a minimum on a 30-inch table, if not dropping it a little bit lower. You kind of want to see into it because that's the height of the container. That's what people are going to see. But yeah. So that wasn't too much foliage. Not really feeling that piece of willow at the back. And camouflage it a little. Probably gonna have stuff all over my hair. generally feel like if it's pretty without any flowers in it, you're in a good place. Alright. I'm gonna be honest, I bought this peony Quitson on a whim. I think at like an end of season sale. And I only have 2 blooms because it was a pretty small root when I planted it 2 seasons ago. But this flower is pretty cool. I don't typically go for this like bomb shape. That's what I think it's called in peony language. But it's pretty cool. And there's so much stuff in there that it's, even though it's a heavy bloom, it stays exactly where I want it to. Like this one was flopped over on the floor, on the ground. Okay, we'll see. And then I had so many beautiful peonies during the last 2 weeks, but they weren't there. There were a lot of golden and apricot or hot pink tones, which didn't work with the wedding. And then, I didn't have time to cut them for any reason, and now they've faded. So, like this is first year bloom on a peony called Trufina Parkin. It started turning brown last night after I cut it, but it's gonna be cool next year. It's also really sticky. So I might not put the big face flowers in at this stage, because I would typically put in the flowers that would frame it, but I want to make sure it's nice and stable. And now I can add my roses, which I'm still a little scared of. This is an old-fashioned climbing rose called Ash Wednesday. It is not a repeat bloomer, and I just think it's like one of the coolest colors I have. It is so thorny, but there's just kind of nothing like it. I really wanted to use these in the wedding. I'm very glad I didn't. Somebody would have gotten really hurt. I could have cut much longer pieces if I felt like taking the whole thing off the trellis, but instead I went for easy to grab. Somewhat easy to grab. This is Silver Cloud. This is Ash Wednesday. They're close, but Ash Wednesday has that really, really, ow! Just put my finger straight into those thorns. Ash Wednesday has that very ruffly garden rose look. I wish it was a repeat bloomer. It's so beautiful. You don't have to add anything else to it, but here's what I have. Honestly know if I'm going to need any of these peonies. They sort of change the moodiness of the design. Actually, that is Cor Louise. That probably will look good with some of those iris. Trying not to ruin my new cabinets within the first, I don't know, 90 days. So this was the whole reason I wanted to go tall, because of the iris. Because as nice as it is to cut them down and use them in bud vases, which is how we used some for the wedding, there's just kind of nothing like them. Been looking for this one. It's in the storage beds. It's called Perry Dyer, I believe. And I almost reordered it because I thought it was gone for good. So I'm glad I found it. advice, I think. Another suggestion. I'll have to look. That's a good one. Really tall. I find that a sharp knife is best for cutting the iris. I'll have to look. I think almost every iris that I picked for this design is from a hybridizer, Barry Blythe. Hybridizers seem to focus on certain color families each season of introduction, and so it's not that every year there's Barry Blythe irises that I feel like I have to have, but I do really, really adore the ones that I have. Typically that one's not going to make it, but there's a backup bloom here. I think this stem's a little short. I broke the fall off of that one. I know that seems cruel, but these will still open, and it was causing me to have a hard time putting a flower in there. Here's a good to find more of these. This is Allium, Bulgaricum, Siculum, or sometimes Sicilian Allium. It needs something here. I could move the peony, but I'm sort of afraid to. I could go cut another iris. I might go see if I can find a few more peonies. I do think Cora would look good here, but we start to lose the Quitzen. It's like almost too competitive. Go see what I can find. I got nothing. I mean, there's plenty of flowers, but nothing that feels particularly right. And it just doesn't need more iris. So, I'm going to try. That's why you put them in at the end. You could definitely do any of these. You could not do ranunculus, are way too short for that. This kind of lavender pink. I don't know that you need it. I mean, you could use as many, it's your arrangement. You could do what you want with it. I love this one. I think this is Brain Teaser. Another nice and tall one. But I think we'll leave it there. Ooh, score. Broken allium. Well, you can't make them longer. If this were a photo shoot, that's what we would do. No, that looks weird. All right, bud vase it is. All right, guys. Well, that is a tall design featuring a lot of bearded iris. Nowhere near the number that I have. I love them so much, and it really has been an incredible spring for them, and there are still many more to come into bloom, especially if our temps stay kind of cool like they have been. So leave me a comment if you have any questions about tall design. I did not use any mechanics, chicken wire, or tape, or anything. That glass vase and the quantity of branches is enough to support the flowers. Obviously, if you're using less fluffy foliage, you would need some kind of support. And yeah, I wish I had somewhere to display this, but it's a little grand for my dining table. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you soon.